Welcome back, fellow time travelers and comic book aficionados, to another episode, and one that will be different. I will be presenting my top 5 favorite comic book covers as part of a challenge that I've accepted by fellow YouTuber Comic Book Deep Dive. If you ever had a chance to check Comic Book Deep Dives with Devin as a narrator, it's a lot of fun looking at great artwork, page by page, with the detail of the comic book. Silver Age classic books, Marvel, DC, and a lot are represented. So before I begin this challenge, just wanted to send a shout out to Comic Book Deep Dives and Devin, and thank you for selecting me, Time Travel Comics, to go ahead and show books from my collection. It's always a lot of fun looking through the collection and picking out which ones are the most favorite, and of course, it's always kind of tough to see the top 5. So without further ado, hang on and let's go. So how do I find these top 5 comics? Well, it takes a little bit of effort here using my trusty time machine here, a vintage Duncan parking meter that has a special mechanism that can go through the temporal rift of time. So how does it work exactly? Well, one would need a coin like this, and maybe even a coin collection, let alone a comic book collection, to find and use the carbon footprint of the coin to draw the book from time. So we're going to go through different eras to pull some of my favorite books. All right, I have a coin from 1963, and let's find the number 5 comic starting off on the list, and here we go. Wow, number 5 is shaping up to be a good one, from February of 1963, and we have Wonder Woman on the cover right here, and it's larger than life, literally, as we have our hero splitting through a skyscraper and being confronted by tanks ahead, just trying to control the situation. And Wonder Woman can't explain why she's becoming larger, and even the splash page inside is a lot of fun with the artwork there. Ross Andrew, never disappointing for the Wonder Woman series. So I just wanted to show you number 5 from 1963. This is one of my favorite comic books in the collection. I always enjoy the color palette of this cover, the tans and the sunlight glint off of the building, and then Wonder Woman saying, "Steve, stop me before I grow any larger," and just all the details in the background and foreground make this for a neat composition and just a work of art. All right, and for number 4, I'm going to use my time machine here to take us to the year 1970, right there. And specifically May of that year, we have this great Superman cover, issue number 226, and we have our familiar Superman presented as King Kong on top of one of my favorite buildings, and one that I always like to read about in comic books, the Empire State Building. And here we even see in the banner King Kong written, and this is a Kurt Swan cover. He never disappointed back in the Silver Age with this great artwork. You'll notice the purple Superman letters coming right at you, and the yellow background just makes for a nice contrast. And the gold building of the Empire State Building with sun around it, and also airplanes in the background, and also Lois in hand. It's just a really neat cover to see Superman in a rare form. And this issue easily makes my top 5 at number 4. All right, how are we going to find number 3? What should we do, time machine? Let me load in some coin, and let's take it back a year earlier to the year 1969. In March of that year, we have a beautiful Steranko cover right here. Jim Steranko with his psychedelic artwork on Captain America is my number 3 favorite comic in my collection. I was happy to find a copy with his autograph right there, which is truly great and something I cherish because I just enjoy his work very much. Even from reading Marvel's Strange Tales and have his debut in comic books for inking the works of Jack Kirby before he eventually was taking the helm with his own artwork for Marvel. Jim Steranko has done a lot in the field, and he also continues to be an influence, also a big Pulp Fiction fan, where he draws a lot of his inspiration. And this cover is just in an era where James Bond was alive and well, and a lot of the spy thrillers and mystery were part of the main theme in the late 60s and early 70s. So this easily makes number 3 my favorite comic. And taking a look at my top favorite number 3, Captain America, we see him right on the cover raising his shield, and behind him, minions of Hydra in this interesting, abstract, almost inspired by Salvador Dali in the realm of surrealism, dream-like sequence going on here. So it's quite an experience looking at this cover, and it also reminds me of the opening credits of James Bond, which were a lot of fun. All right, fellow time travelers, we're going to move on to the number 2 favorite cover in my collection, and I'm going to adjust the dial on my time machine to the year 1979 to retrieve it, and it's going to be a great one. Oh, this is a great one. It's one of my favorite. As you know, as fans of the channel, I always enjoy science fiction, especially strange adventures, space adventures, space wars, and you name it. And this one is a DC Dollar comic from 1979, and we have Time Warp right here, the first of the series. And this is a Mike Kaluta cover, one of my favorite artists, New York-based artist with that fantasy appeal that looks to it, that fine line work, and it's easily number 2 and my favorite of all comics in my collection. What I enjoy most about this cover is the title twisting and also showing time warp, and the hero is using the gun blast to light up the way to illuminate the fearsome creature in the background. You can see just by the light produced there that it's a dark scene, and it's also action-packed, as both are equipped with weapons and fighting their way through what could potentially be their doom. And 8 stories in here, Mike Kaluta artwork, just the composition and balance of this cover make it to be a great one, and my number 2. And before we get to number 1, I want to thank Devin from Comic Book Deep Dives for calling out on me and asking me to take part in the challenge. Happy to do so, to show my top 5. And of course, in any top 5 list, we always have some honorable mention, including this book right here. That's issue number 82 of Strange Adventures, a gilt-cane cover, one of my favorites. And I just love the mystery of them trying to solve a puzzle, like a Bigfoot is in the area, and a big handprint on the side of the rocket. So that's kind of neat to see that. And this is from July of 1957, and it's just a neat composition here. I love the theater in the background, the Paragon right where my finger is right here, and just a great cover. And Strange Adventure, as I mentioned before, sci-fi is something that always is a thrill to see. So this is a fun one, an honorable mention. Another honorable mention before we get to number 1 is a book from 1966, and that has to do with the Spider-Man Annual, number 3. And one of my favorite comics that I like to go to time and again, and I'm always drawn to it by the cover by John Romita Sr. right here. And everything going on is Marvel action at its finest, with the Hulk, Iron Man in the background, Captain America, and of course Spider-Man, who's asked by the Avengers to subdue the Hulk and bring him in. And this is a particularly interesting book that I ordered from Astoria, New York, which is exactly where Spider-Man lives. and where he came to be in his origin. So having a book from Astoria with this great cover that I ordered many years ago, almost 2 decades ago, is one of my favorites in the collection, and another honorable mention. All right, the number one comic, my favorite cover in all of my collection so far, but will be for a long time, is going to be from the year, what does my time machine say? 1953. And here we are, let's go. And this is it, Space Adventure, issue number 4. And this is by the great Dick Giordano, who eventually worked for DC Comics. He was the editor at Charlton Comics and did a lot of great work. And I just love the rockets on this cover. Just recently did a short featuring this particular book, among others. And just that 1930s, 40s, 50s concept of how rockets were drawn, the distortion, the saucers that you see there, make this one my favorite issue in my collection. And a Charlton book which offered a lot of great artwork from artists like Steve Ditko, Rocky Mastrisario, and you name them, including Dick Giordano. It's just a lot of fun. And here it is in its glory. Taking a closer look at the book, you could see the stars and the cosmos in the background and all the multitude of rockets whizzing by in their different tangents, and just the blasts and such, and also that little corner inset that shows what's going on inside the rocket make for a fun time. And one of many comic books featuring space in the 40s and 50s, Space Adventures was one of the earlier ones from Charlton, and a great Golden Age book. And that wraps up my top 5 favorite comics in my collection. I hope you enjoyed those covers, and I challenge any of you to list and show your top 5. And it's just fun to see what we all enjoy, the artwork and the experiences that we get from comics. Thanks again for watching, and happy time traveling.